An island off the coast of Venezuela, Aruba's only resources is beaches, resorts, and a carefree banking system that matches the island lifestyle. Aruba is a money laundering center for the mobsters of the world. In the late 80s, the Sicilian Mafia was the island's principal landowner.
Did you attend that meeting?
Yeah, sure. I went everywhere Johnny went.
What were your duties?
Backup, make sure everything goes real smooth. Keep my eyes, my ears open. See, we didn't know this Colombian guy, and Johnny, he was kind of worried that he might be a cokehead. And the family, they really wanted this deal to go down. It was up to Johnny to do it. So that first day, Johnny was a little bit nervous. I would be too. You don't ever want to displease Tito Rena. Bonnie, he had his own jet. Turned out to be a nice guy, too. Really knew how to enjoy life. Right from the start, he and Johnny got along.
Where did they meet on the island to discuss the deal?
Everywhere. They went fishing, sailing, walking on the beach. All the time they were talking business. I had myself a real good time in Aruba.
The deal, Cufaro. What about the deal?
The way Johnny explained it, Aponte caught on right away. Said the deal made good business sense.
What made good sense?
And we trade our heroin for their coke. That way the Colombians could move their heroin while we could move their coke in Europe. That's where we had the fronts and the networks, and they didn't.
The deal the Sicilian was offering was too good for the Colombians to refuse. Heroin has a higher market value than cocaine, and the Colombians had coke to burn. Plus the distribution costs to Europe were more than it cost to produce the drug. By merging their resources, the two organizations would control the drug market on two continents.
Bonnie said he was sure the cartel would agree. Timing was right. And like Johnny said, it made good business sense. All it took was cooperation. Now, Ponte. See, now, Ponte, he was the one who suggested we use Big John to move the drugs.
Big John. Who's he?
No, he's a she and she's a ship, a freighter. In Aruba, we loaded a ton of coke. We could have put on 500 tons. But Aponte, he said this was just a trial run. And Big John just took off for Sicily. The ship was to offload at a small fishing village on the west coast. I was ordered to call Aponte as soon as I spotted it. I was at that village for 2 stinking weeks. Big John, she came in, though, no problem.
What happened then?
We offloaded the coke, and then we put on some heroin for the Colombians.
Where did the ship offload the drugs?
Somewhere in the United States, that's all I know.
Other ships followed. Europe was soon buried under an avalanche of Colombian coke distributed by the Sicilians. While in America, Sicilian heroin was flowing in from the Colombian network. The first partnership between two of the world's major criminal organizations exploded in a tidal wave of cash. To clean the billions of dollars in drug money, the Sicilians and Colombians turned to the newest member of the world's international crime club, the Russian Mafia. The meltdown of the Iron Curtain brought anarchy and chaos to the Russian economy. With Big Brother dead and buried, Mother Russia was ripe for the taking by ruthless crooks with great ambitions.
In the last month of 1991, the same month that the hammer and sickle came down over the Kremlin, a large group of Soviet mafia leaders, Russian mafia leaders, met in Dasha, outside Moscow. They'd had many councils and many meetings in the past. This was one of their ways of arranging the government, so to speak, or the governing bodies of crime in the old Soviet Union. And on their agenda, on the top of the agenda, was what to do as the system was imploding around them.
Everything was for sale. Everyone had a price. In this climate of corruption and anarchy, the Russian Mafia infiltrated corporations, banks, and government agencies. They set up shop as the black market brokers and money cleaners for organized crime. The Russian mob's best customer was the Colombian cartels. Engorged with millions from their partnership with the Sicilians, the cocaine kings went on a spending spree. The Colombians lusted for advanced technology and high-tech weaponry. Acting as middlemen, the Russian Mafia sold the Colombians radar jamming technology, munitions, armament, even attack helicopters. U.S. law enforcement was powerless to stop many of the deals between the Colombians and Russians. But one deal they discovered seemed right out of a James Bond thriller. The leading characters were a strip club owner called Tarzan, an undercover agent named Sasha, and a Soviet submarine commander. Some titled the operation 20,000 Kilos Under the Sea. Run silent, run deep. Move 100 tons of drugs in a single voyage. It doesn't take a criminal genius to dream up such a scheme, but it does take the combined power of organized crime to make it happen. The plot first came to the surface at Miami's division of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency. In the early 90s, Miami was a crossroad of the underworld. Jet-setting gangsters from the Chinese triads of Southeast Asia to the nearby Caribbean posses and the Mafia families of New York. All the world's crime organizations had field operations in Miami, but the largest migration of criminals was from Russia. The influx of Russian mobsters to Miami was so great, local FBI, DEA, and immigration service officials had informal meetings at what was dubbed the Little Odessa Room. Here they sorted through a bewildering array of rumors, tips, and leads, shuffling through names they couldn't even pronounce. One name they quickly learned was Vyacheslav Ivankov.
I first became aware of Ivankov whenever I was talking to the Russian authorities and asked them to help us identify the major criminals in the United States that came out of Russia. And they provided me the name of Ivankov. Well, when we first started looking at Ivankov, he was bouncing from one city to another. He was primarily in New York City, but he was in Boston, and he was in Denver, and he was in Los Angeles, and he was in Miami, and he was in San Francisco. Then he may go back into Russia to meet with other thieves. To say that he was the major figure in the United States, yes, he was. There's no question in our mind about it. There was no question in the Russian authorities' mind about it. You have to kind of understand that Ivankov's reputation is even bigger in Russia than it is in the United States.
Ivankov began his ascent to the upper regions of the Soviet underground while incarcerated in the brutal Siberian Gulag. Admired by other prison inmates, Ivankov was elected to the status of thief-in-law, a position held by an elite few professional criminals who were powerful, charismatic, and brutally ruthless. In 1991, Ivankov was released from prison. The Russian Ministry of Internal Affairs informed the FBI that Ivankov immediately left for America. His mission? Take control and organize Russian criminal activities throughout North America. Ivankov's base of operation was a Brighton Beach section of New York City. Brighton is cited by the New York press as a center of Soviet emigre organized crime.